The air in Orangeburg, South Carolina, was thick with more than just the humidity of a southern winter in February 1968. It was heavy with the scent of wood smoke from campus bonfires and the acrid tang of a long simmering injustice. On a night that should have been defined by the quiet pursuit of education, the campus of South Carolina State University became a killing field. This is the story of a massacre that history tried to forget, a night when state troopers opened fire on unarmed students whose only crime was demanding the right to bowl in a segregated alley. Before we dive deeper into this tragic chapter of the civil rights movement, please take a quick moment to comment, like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes of the Calendar of Crime. Your support helps us bring these forgotten stories to light. Orangeburg was a town divided. While the Civil Rights Act of 1964 had supposedly ended legal segregation, the All-Star Bowling Lane remained a stubborn bastion of the old guard. Harry Floyd, the owner, refused to integrate, claiming his business was a private club. For the students of South Carolina State and Claflin University, this wasn't just about bowling. It was a blatant slap in the face of their dignity. The tension had been building for weeks, escalating from quiet sit-ins to a boiling point that no one could ignore. On the evening of February 5th, students gathered at the bowling alley to challenge the segregation policy. The response was swift and brutal. Police used clubs to beat the protesters, leaving many injured and the community in a state of shock. The following days saw the deployment of the National Guard and state highway patrolmen, turning the quiet college town into what felt like an occupied territory. The students, undeterred, moved their protests to the campus, lighting a bonfire to keep warm and to signal their defiance. As the night of February 8th descended, nearly 200 students gathered near the front of the campus. They were unarmed, their voices raised in song and protest. Across the street, a line of white highway patrolmen stood with shotguns and carbines, their faces masked by the darkness. The atmosphere was a powder keg, waiting for a single spark. That spark came when a fire was lit to provide warmth, and a patrolman was struck by a thrown object. Without warning, and without an order to fire, the silence was shattered by a volley of buckshot. The shooting lasted only about 10 to 15 seconds, but in that brief window, time seemed to fracture. Students scrambled for cover, diving into the grass or sprinting toward the safety of the dormitories. Many were shot in the back as they fled, the lead pellets tearing through their clothes and skin. When the smoke cleared, the campus was a scene of carnage. 3 young men lay dying, and 28 others were bleeding on the cold ground, their dreams of a better future interrupted by the state's lethal response. The victims were more than just names in a police report. Samuel Hammond Jr. and Henry Smith were 18-year-old college students with their whole lives ahead of them. Delano Middleton was only 17. A high school student who had simply come to the campus to see what was happening. Their deaths were a devastating blow to their families and the community. Yet, in the immediate aftermath, the narrative was controlled by those who held the guns. Governor Robert McNair blamed Black Power agitators, framing the massacre as a necessary response to a riot. The legal fallout was just as harrowing as the night itself. While 9 state troopers were eventually charged with using excessive force, they were all acquitted by an all-white jury. The only person to serve time for the events in Orangeburg was Cleveland Sellers, a SNCC organizer who wasn't even present at the shooting. He was convicted of inciting a riot and spent 7 months in prison before being pardoned decades later. The message was clear. The lives of Black students were secondary to the preservation of a segregated status quo. The Orangeburg Massacre occurred 2 years before the more famous Kent State shootings, yet it rarely receives the same level of historical recognition. It remains a stark reminder of the violence that underpinned the struggle for civil rights in the American South. Today, a memorial stands on the campus of South Carolina State University, honoring the 3 young men who lost their lives. Their sacrifice is a testament to the courage of a generation that refused to accept anything less than full equality. Thanks for watching. Please comment, share, like, and subscribe for future episodes from the Calendar of Crime.